as I'm sure a lot of you are aware by now, when I'm not busy doing YouTube or whatever else, I'm the person who made and runs what I'm pretty sure is the largest social media page dedicated to the sharing of the best and the worst bootlegs around, Bootleg Stuff. And as you'd expect of a bootleg connoisseur like myself, I don't just like to share pictures of them, I also like to collect them when I can find them. My collection is honestly pretty modest. It's not as huge as I'm sure a lot of you were hoping, but I think it still has some pretty good pieces in it. And recently, thanks to all of you, I hit 10,000 subs on YouTube, and I can't thank y'all enough for that. So to help express my gratitude, I made a poll for what all of you would want to see as my 10k sub special, and the winner was pretty definitively my bootleg collection, so here's what I got. We'll start this out with these dinky little Pokemon toys. These are pretty easy to find, in all honesty. You can even find them on Amazon if you search hard enough, and I've seen them in big jars in a couple of movie and game stores. Since these are pretty easy to find and can generally be bought in bulk, I usually give some of them away at the bootleg panel that I bring to some anime conventions, so if you ever run into me at an anime convention, there's a pretty good chance I might have some of these on me, and I'll probably give you one if you ask. The quality on these ranges from kinda ugly to very ugly and completely miscolored, and some of them are definitely more amusing than others. But at the end of the day, considering how many of these you can buy for so little money, it's kinda hard to argue, you know? And speaking of bootlegs that aren't hard to find, yeah, bootleg movie packs, you can usually find these in the discount bins in places like Walmart or Target. So I haven't seen all the movies in these, but I've seen enough to know that they were very much well worth the $5 I paid for them. So I haven't watched these in a while, but I remember thinking that Kiara the Brave was probably the weirdest out of the ones I'd seen, and skimming back over the movie to make this video, I can definitely see why I thought that. Bad animation, bad voice acting, no lip syncing, no coherent plot, it's pretty much exactly what you think. And speaking of bootleg movies, I have the legendary Space Thunder Kids and Protectors of Universe. Let me tell you something, I absolutely love these. So these are both movies by a man named Joseph Lai, and what he does in these and a bunch of his other so-called movies is he just kinda lightly edits footage from other anime, generally other mecha anime, and then he'll just call it a movie. And even discounting the bootlegged footage, the movies themselves are just, God, to call them poorly made is the understatement of the century. Honestly, I'll probably make a separate video about the wonders in these DVD cases someday, because they're just, oh my god, they're so awful. They're timeless classics that I think every anime fan owes themselves a watch of, but also they're awful. Next up, we have this cute little would-be Leafeon plush. I found this one on eBay, and I'll have a picture of what the real version is supposed to look like on screen for anyone not familiar with what this Pokemon is supposed to look like. Spoiler alert, its eyes aren't lower than its nose. I don't think this one is super rare, since I've actually seen it on eBay and even at anime conventions a couple times now. It's also pretty easy to find pictures of this one online, so I can only assume that means it's circulated around quite a bit. But this one holds a special place in my heart, because it's like, it's so ugly that it's cute, you know? It's endearing. I mean, look at him. He's just a little chicken nugget. A little chicken nugget whose eyes are lower than its nose. Next up, I'm gonna tell you about my two absolute favorite pieces in my collection, starting with this Planet Girl statue. So I have absolutely no idea what the backstory on this figure is, and if you know it, I would love it if you could tell me. But as for the backstory about how I obtained this figure, I found this one at a store called Vintage Stock in Oklahoma City. It's a small chain of entertainment stores we have here in the Midwest, and they sell movies and games and, of course, collectibles. Aside from the little Pokemon toys I told y'all about earlier, I've never seen any other bootlegs there aside from this one. I was there with a friend once, and this was there for like, God, I think it was $3. It was absurdly cheap, and I bought it in a heartbeat. There was actually a second one on there too, one of Sailor Jupiter, but I was extremely broke at the time and could only afford one. I just wish I knew who sold them to that vintage stock to begin with. I can only imagine they must have a pretty solid bootleg collection themselves. Anyways, obviously this one is supposed to be Sailor Venus, but you know, it's a little bit miscolored, just a little. But that's not even the biggest red flag that this is a bootleg. That would be, quite obviously, the packaging itself. This isn't the worst ripoff of the Sailor Scouts I've seen. To be fair, I can at least tell who's supposed to be who. And if you weren't familiar with the Sailor Moon franchise, the art's not so bad that it would immediately scream bootleg. I could definitely see this fooling maybe an older person from the 90s who was just trying to shop for a gift for like a niece, a nephew, or a grandchild, or something like that. This is a better attempt than most other Sailor Moon bootlegs I've seen, but at the end of the day, the figure and the art still don't match, so it's still pretty definitively bootleg, even if you're not familiar with Sailor Moon. And now my favorite piece in my collection, the PCP station. That's right, PCP.
But I'm just here as a concerned citizen and founder of PCP, the Parks Committee of Pawnee.
So here we have what I'm sure someone wanted people to believe was a PSP. So I got this one at a flea market in New Hampshire. To be more specific, I got it right outside of the flea market itself. There was an old woman with a big box just full of these things. They were just stacked on top of each other and she was selling them for $15 a piece. Honest to God, all I had on me was $10 at the time, so I tried haggling her down to 10, but she wouldn't take it. Luckily, I was there with a friend who was able to haggle her down, so you can thank him for this lovely centerpiece in my collection. Thank you, Kale. So the box is a little damaged, but if you go to the back, you can see that this thing has some pretty great games loaded into it, like Thunderbolt Airplane, Super Mary, Non-Such Fly Racing, Street Overlord, and, oh yes, of course, the classic itself. How could we forget Chanticleer Hegemony? Or at least that's what it's supposed to have. Alas, mine only has Super Mary, Street Overlord, and Non-Such Racing. Damn. This is definitely, without a doubt, the most blatant bootleg in my collection. The one that would even get the most gullible, most out-of-touch people thinking it couldn't possibly be real. At least, that's what I think. I mean, it's called PCP. Perhaps someday, when the time is right and the planets are in proper alignment, I'll finally give this thing a play. Who knows? And so there it is. That's my humble bootleg collection. I know it's probably not as huge as I'm sure a lot of you were hoping, and I'm sorry to disappoint, I don't know. If it counts for anything though, my bootleg image folder has upwards of 4,000 images, so, I mean, I think that sounds like a lot. If any of you have any fun bootlegs, feel more than free to tell me all about them in the comments, or better yet, you could tweet them to me on my page dedicated to sharing some of the best and the worst bootlegs on the internet, Bootleg Stuff. I'll have a link to it and my own social media pages in the description. So thank you all so much for watching, and thank you all so much for your support on this channel, on Bootleg Stuff, just wherever. You're all super rad, and I'm super grateful for all of you. Seriously, I am. And to help show my gratitude, if you're watching this video before December 16th, 2018, then there's also gonna be a link in the description for a giveaway I'm hosting. I'm giving away a Steam key for my all-time favorite visual novel and one of my favorite games just in general. It's called The House in Fata Morgana, and it's an absolute masterpiece. If you're not sure what it is, then there's a link to my spoiler-free video review in the giveaway page that you can check out. Anyways, I'll pick a winner at random on the 16th, so go ahead and enter that before it's too late. And so, with that, once more, thank you all again so much for your support. It means the world to me, and I hope I'll be making a lot more milestone videos like this in the future. So, thank you. No, but seriously, you should go play The House in Fata Morgana.